Hey everybody, Jay Super Awesome here, and this is going to be my review for Death House. Alright, so let's get into the story for this one. During an exclusive tour, a power breakdown inside a secret prison known as the Death House sends two agents fighting through a labyrinth of horrors while being pursued by a ruthless army of roaming inmates. As they fight to escape, the agents push towards the lowest depths of the facility where they learn of a supernatural group of evil beings is their only chance for survival. Okay, so getting into my thoughts for this one, I really like the idea of a Expendables of horror movie. Having a movie with as many horror icons in it as we can get. It's a really cool idea. This was a passion project of Gunnar Hansen, and I believe they said it started in 2009. And over the years, the script was passed around, went through several different hands, then was finally returned to him. And when he read it, he had admitted that it was very different than what he had originally written. But at the end of the day, it ended up with his approval, and he had told them to get it made even if they had to film it on top of his grave. And I just thought that was really cool because it goes to show you how much it had meant to him. Okay, so getting into what I liked about the movie. I really liked the score a lot. I thought it set a really good tone for what the film needed. And it may not be for everybody, but I thought it was spot on for what this movie needed. I really like the practical effects. The gore was really good in this movie. There's one scene in particular that I really liked where our two special agents and Dee Wallace's character were hiding in a room with these skinless looking creatures, and I believe they were called the Homeless. They may actually even been human. It's not really explained, but they looked really cool. The room was really vile and grotesque looking. They were actually eating on something in the floor, and they may have actually even been eating on each other. But it was a really cool scene, almost reminiscent of something from Hellraiser. So yeah, definitely one of my favorite scenes of the movie. I thought that Kane Hodder had a standout performance in this movie. He was given a lot of screen time to develop his character. And his character, I sort of take it as it's sort of like a cult leader character, as he's able to get pretty much anybody to follow him and do whatever he wants them to do. So he did a real good job with his character. Barbara Crampton and Dee Wallace get quite a bit of screen time as well, and I think they do a pretty good job. But definitely Kane Hodder is the standout in my opinion. Okay, so getting into my dislikes about the movie. My number one dislike would have to be the execution of the story. Even though I do like the concept of the movie, the story was very poorly executed in my opinion. There's a lot of dialogue that goes on at the beginning of the movie about what the death house is, what it isn't, their idea of what they're trying to accomplish. And I take it as they're trying to rid the world of good and evil. And I may be wrong on that, but that's kind of that's the general idea of what I was taking it for. But it's so extensive and so many technical terms being thrown around, it ends up being confusing. And a lot of times it's just confusing on what's really happening. Okay, so we have these two special agents who have been promoted to take a tour of the death house. So they get hooked to these machines, and when they start to take the tour, I was expecting them to be taking a tour of the death house, but within this tour, you're also getting to see clips from their past, which kind of leads to these character profiles, which I like to call baseball cards. Okay, so with these character profiles, these baseball cards, we learn about our two special agents and the five evils. The death house has 9 levels, so 9 floors, and the five evils are being housed in the 9th floor because they are the most violent and evil inmates within the death house. Okay, so our two special agents decide in order to escape the death house, they need to wrap some cloths around their hands and slide down the longest elevator shaft in horror movie history. So once they get to the bottom of this elevator shaft, they come face to face with the five evils. Then a long, extensive conversation starts, mostly with Bill Moseley explaining what the death house is doing, how they're trying to rid good and evil, and he's basically saying that we need to keep good and evil in order to keep a balance. Now, I'm breaking that down kindergarten style. He gets really technical about it, and he kind of goes on and on with it, and you kind of just want him to be quiet for a while. But Kane Hodder ends up showing up, and I'm not going to get into details about what happens there, but he does show up. But after the conversation finally ends, our special agents simply exit out a door, and then they're in the sunlight. So apparently there's an exit door on the 9th floor and not the top floor. Or maybe they went back to the top floor and it didn't show it. Who knows? But I'm taking it as they exited the door on the 9th floor and then they're out into the sunlight. So once they're out there, they have discovered from the conversations with the five evils that there are more death houses. And so they're debating on whether or not to go find the other death houses and go through all this crap again. So that's kind of the jumbled up mess of the story to Death House. Okay, so I'm going to get into my final dislike, and then I will get into my final thoughts and ratings for this movie. Okay, so my final dislike would have to be the CGI effects. While I really enjoyed the practical effects and thought overall they were pretty well done, the CGI effects in this movie are terrible. There are often scenes where our characters will enter a room and it will look one way, and before the scene was over, they would be standing in complete darkness. It's like the background has disappeared and there's sort of like fuzzy lights around, like highlighting our characters. It just looks really off. The CGI effects look like something from the 90s in this movie. So that's about all I'm going to be able to say about Death House. Well, one other thing I'm going to kind of get into, and that's having all these characters in this movie are horror icons. A lot of them don't get a lot of screen time, and a lot of them don't get any spoken lines. So I think it's really a shame, and it's almost kind of like a waste of time for those actors. I did enjoy getting to see them in this movie. I just wish they could have a lot of them could have actually done something. So that's my final dislikes. Getting into my final thoughts and ratings for this movie. I can't actually recommend this movie. I enjoy this movie in a so bad it's good kind of way. So there are things that I can appreciate about it, but I like really bad movies. So I'm going to give this one a 5.5 out of 10. And I can only recommend this movie for people that enjoy bad movies. So that's my thoughts. Please leave me comments below, like, subscribe, and let me know what you think. And thank you for watching.